Sound awakens something deep within. Welcome to this podcast, a space to slow down, tune in, and return to the song of your soul. In this episode, I am joined by Joseph Schmidlin, who is a classical osteopath and sound researcher. He integrates sonic vibrational medicine and Nada yoga in his teaching and practice. Founder of One Tone Sonic Alchemy, he promotes sonic awareness through his research. Hi, Joseph. Thank you so much for being on my podcast today.
You're welcome, Lakshmi. Hi. Thank you for inviting me.
My pleasure. So, I want to start off by asking you what first drew you to osteopathy and later to sound healing. Was there a defining moment that shifted your path toward vibrational medicine?
Well, I would say it started in right out of high school, maybe my senior year. I'm deciding, okay, what am I going to do with my life? What am I going to be? So several things led me to this idea that there was a human potential movement. So I knew I wanted to become part of the human potential movement. I started studying yoga a bit. I was working as an engineer, like I got into the field of engineering right out of high school, because my father was a race car driver and NASCAR driver, and I drove myself for a few years, and I thought that was my trajectory, is to spend my life doing that. But the human potential movement really kind of opened my eyes up. Yoga, spirituality, which I wouldn't have called it spirituality back then, but that's probably what it was. I got interested in astrology and Ayurvedic medicine, Chinese medicine, and taking care of my own body. I was also an athlete. I played ultimate frisbee in a world championship level, in a few world championships, and traveling on the East Coast, playing at a pretty high level of the sport. Well, the highest at that point. So all of that kind of led me into the body. So, and then through sports injuries, I started to understand, I really like working with the body more than mechanical things. So it was like the engineering of the body. So that combined with the yoga, with the human potential movement thing, all led me to a path towards working in the field of massage work. So at one point, I left my career path as an engineer, went to massage school so that I could get into this field. And that was, like, for me, the easiest way to enter the field was through massage. And I was so interested in it. And I had been given a lot of compliments on my touch, and people said, "Oh, you have good hands, you have good touch." And so that encouraged me to go deeper. And then right out of massage school, I wanted to study more because I was like really into studying and learning about the body. And I took a cranial sacral class with Dr. John Upliger's protege, Jimmy Green. And I was like, wow, this is incredible work. I don't know what this osteopathy is, but I know I want to learn the work. So I spent 10 years working with Upliger, and in their system, they bring in other osteopathic teachers like Fritz Smith, amazing human being. He started zero balancing. So I got deeply into the zero balancing, and then the visceral work with Jean-Pierre Burrell, who's another osteopath. And then Bruno Cicli taught a version of osteopathy that brought in the lymphatic system. So I was studying with these gurus of their techniques for years. Something drew me to just go back to school for osteopathy. So I did go to Canada and went through their program at the Canadian Academy of Osteopathy and got my degree. And what I discovered when I was in school is, I'm like, wow, I've been for nearly 10 years picking the fruits of the tree, these osteopathic gems. But now I had to go down back to the root and really put myself in beginner's mind again and really learn from the core. So that was like a medical training. That was a full medical school background. So we had a teacher, Todd Bazilla, who actually went to PCOM, College of Osteopathic Medicine in the States, which was he was an MD. So he brought that whole program up to Canada. And then the Canadians were more interested in what I would call real osteopathy, OMT, osteopathic manual therapy, which was alive, very alive in Britain and France and the rest of the world. Where in the States, it was kind of changing into more medical allopathic. So the osteopaths were becoming more allopaths. But I was interested in the holistic, which was still alive in Great Britain. So their main influence and teacher was John Wernham. And so he was an osteopath practicing at 99 years old and still teaching people. So we studied with him. We really got the root of osteopathy from Dr. Wernham. So that combined with the medical, logical, you know, physiology of the West with the hands-on work of the osteopaths that was alive since 1879, that combination. And so it really, turned me on to this work. Several years. So I started in the osteopathic world in around the early 90s. And around 2012, I started hearing about sound healing and understanding it. And as a lay musician, I would bring in tuning forks under the guidance of Dr. John Bellew, and started just bringing them very small into the practice. And since I was working with the meridians already in Chinese medicine, it was really easy for me to start putting tuning forks on acupuncture points, opening up the channels, which I was used to doing also through acupressure and acupuncture. So the vibrational therapy just kind of replaced, the needles and the hands-on pressure. Okay. And now it just opened me up to, oh, there's so much more in the sound healing field. So I did this year-long training in Manhattan at the Open Center, which is Don Campbell's school. And he brought in 10 of the best sound healing practitioners. So each month we had classes with different practitioners. And John Bellew, Sylvia Nakash, Joshua Leeds, some of the more famous people in the sound healing world were part of that program. And that was back when there was only a few sound healing schools in the States. California School of Integral Studies and the Open Center Sound Music Institute. So that kind of launched me into the field, into the sound healing field. I always had a clinical practice the whole time. So I would just introduce the new things I learned into my clinical practice. My clients and patients loved me because I was always dynamic and I was always learning. And so they were always benefiting from that, and they really enjoyed that. Yeah, so the whole thing unfolded really, really like that. And then at some point I saw that the osteopathic work I was doing, the deep listening, the body felt listening, and the sound field, the deep listening and the sound field were actually the same thing, because we're listening to the self-organizing forces on many levels of the field around us, of the practitioner, of the client. It's a holistic thing. But then the client's self-organizing forces, the inner physician or inner healer, as we call it, of the client, is really what is going to control the session, because they're coming in for the session, they're paying, they're making a commitment, and they're saying, I want to heal this process. So we have to really deeply listen to their healer. So a lot of this work is all about deep listening, and the practitioner builds his skills as good as possible, but is always taking direction from the field and from the inner physician of the client.
That's a terrific journey, Joseph. Thank you so much for sharing. Um, and as someone trained in classical osteopathy, how do you bridge anatomy and physiology with sound and subtle energy work?
So the anatomy and physiology is logical. We start to understand how the systems work. But really, we, at some level, are at the edge of our science. So we'll understand much more in 50 years, in 100 years, of how systems work. And we're already seeing that as the quantum field starts opening up. So quantum sciences really started in since basically Max Planck, and even maybe a bit before, but now that field is widening and opening. And so that's the quantum field. And that hasn't even been updated in our physiology that I've seen yet today. Some people are understanding it, but um, we have a long ways to go with the science. But we want to be on the edge of science because that gives us the logical and the practical basis for how we work, why we work, when we work. Now, all that information needs to be held in context, right? If
Right.
we keep it only in the box, then we're just working allopathically, or we're working, with just dealing with the symptoms, but not the root cause of the disease. And then, so what I want to say is that gives us the background field, but we have to put that in the background, and we have to stay open to what's happening in the moment. And so what I've discovered is a huge part of this work, whether it's osteopathy, sound healing, whatever holistic therapy, is being in present moment and listening. So this is where they kind of fit together. And if we get lost in the anatomy and we get lost in the physiology, we're going to be closing ourselves off to potential healing process.
Got it.
So, however, all that information can support the healing process. Okay.
Makes sense. So, and then as you're speaking about listening to the body, right? Can you describe what that means in your practice and how your practitioners can cultivate that skill?
So the biggest tether is going to be to your neutral. So you really want to develop this sense of neutral. And when I say neutral, I mean you're not when you're there, it's a collaboration, right? So you're going to share whatever skills, whatever gifts, whatever you learned with your client in the best way possible. But you also have to get out of this mindset where you're going to fix anyone or where you're the healer. And that's something we have in our system that's kind of a little off, because we say the sound healer and you think of the person who's facilitating the session as a sound healer. Well, the healer is actually the client. The client's inner healing is happening. You're using your skills, your knowledge in the best way to facilitate that process. And you have to cultivate a neutral presence. So you have to cultivate this idea that their healing wisdom is within them. So it's not anything you're doing. It's
Yes.
something you're listening to and you're applying skillful means. Okay. So it really stems down to listening.
It's beautiful. Yeah. And in your experience, how does sound, whether tuning forks, voice, or nada yoga, affect our nervous system, emotions, and cellular memory?
Well, that's a really deep question. So our nervous system can self-organize when it's in balance, right? And so the vibration, the sound, if applied right, is basically bringing our system into a state of balance and into
Stasis.
homeostasis.
Mhm.
So sound is part of the ether element. So we think about elements, right, in this work, and sound is where we were created from and where we return to, where it's just flow of energy, right? And you mentioned Nada Yoga.
Right.
So Nada Brahma is the beginning of creation. So everything came from this
So,
initial spark of vibration. So if you look at the context of any religion, you see that at the beginning. In the beginning there was vibration, spanda in the Vedics, or the word is what they use in the Catholicism. And so we basically come from nothing, a vibratory field it forms all the galaxies, it forms the planets, it formed minerals first, and then perfected minerals, perfected vegetation, and the animal kingdom, and then finally that humans were the edge of the evolution, right? So what we want to do is we want to connect to that source, because that source energy is all of creation. So if we can go back to and our deep listening, we can actually follow every sound back to its origin. And if we do this in a practical way, it takes us into a deep meditation. It takes us into our own stillness, into our own connection with the healing resources. So I a lot of times refer and work with the embryology to help people understand this. In the beginning, right when the egg was here and the sperm was here, there was this moment, this spark where where creation happened. So in a way, that's your personal Big Bang. That's that spark that formed you, and then you formed into different germ layers and different tissues and different functions. Um, so if we can go back to that first original spark, which is our Nada Brahma, but then we can take it to the universal Nada Brahma, beyond the beyond the beyond. And this is a very yogic philosophy. They've understood this for thousands of years. So some of these writings, the Rig Veda, the earliest Vedic texts, they talk about these things. Okay, so bringing ourselves into that state of one, that helps the body to be in this neutral self-organizing forces. It's before we started to create function, right? So now we have to function. So it's meditative space, it's pure presence, it's neutral. So we want to start to bring in these ideas, because this is what and the vibration and the sound is always neutral.
That's beautifully explained. Thank you, Joseph. Yeah, that helps a lot. And in terms of the harmonic spine that you came up with, could you explain the inspiration behind harmonic spine and how vibration restores balance in the body?
So if we look at the spine, we have vertebrae, right? We can look at the bones. We can look at we have a membrane system underneath that. Then we have a fluid system underneath that, the cerebrospinal fluid. And then we keep going underneath that. And I'm saying underneath, but you could think of above also. It's going from more gross to more subtle. So after the fluids, after the membranes, fluids, we go into liquid light, and then we go into pure energy. And then we could even say pure consciousness, where we're beyond our own personal ego structure, and we're in an archetypal field, or we're in a unity consciousness field. Okay. There's a place where we all connect, and that's in the core of the earth. So if every one of us follows our gravity line down from the top of our head to the bottom of our tail, which is in yogic traditions, it's called the Sushumna channel.
Right.
In cranial sacral, we could call it the central canal as a spinal cord, or the midline. In osteopathy, the word is the midline. So we all have this midline structure between heaven and earth, and we're suspended on that structure. The gravity line of every being goes right to the center of the earth. This is where we all meet. So that brings us into this universal field idea or feeling. Now we're all connected somehow to the heavens and the stars. So we can also find that place above the above, right? And in the core of the earth. So something very tangible. The core of the earth is a tangible place. The 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 galaxies and the ever expanding universe is not tangible. So we have this mystery, and we have this finite and infinite, right? So we're in that space. So that would be what we call the midline. So when we're working with sound, we're working with body work presence, we're helping the body to connect with its own midline. And if we follow the midline in the embryological process,
Right.
the midline developed around the 7th day in embryo, right? Before that, we were 64 cells, right, that implanted on the uterus wall. So each of those 64 cells was a duplicate of itself, similar to like a it's our mineral state in a
Right.
way. Okay. And can you re-ask your question? Because I'm on the track, but I want to get really defined and refined in.
Yeah, I was just asking how the inspiration behind your harmonic spine came about and how the vibration restores
Got it.
balance
Yeah.
in the body.
Yes. So the philosophy is that which I just got you up to, right? So now if we come back more into the nervous system, and this is what I do with my work in the clinic, is I help people to realign with where, by reducing the restrictions or realigning the body to this midline, it resolves the issues that are blocking the communication. So if you have a membrane, say, that has a wrinkle in it or a restriction, and the osteopaths call it lesions. So if we find an osteopathic lesion, it's on the membranous level. Now, if we start to open that up through our technique and reduce that restriction, the whole body will start to self-correct itself.
Oh,
Okay,
got it.
that will allow the energy and to actually light up that area, because what's happened is when we have lesions or restrictions, they're actually blocking energy. They're consuming energy.
Got it.
Okay, so now through those skillful moons, we start to release that. Okay, so that's why I say the harmonic spine. It's in the spine, and so now we restore harmony to it. We can do that also through music and sound, and we work with different frequencies that are very consonant in the beginning. So consonant frequency would say be the octave. If you go from one octave to another, they're same. They're just a doubling or a halving of themselves. So it's a 2/1. We look at the fractions, right? So that's a very consonant frequency. The next frequency, the harmonic that comes out, is the 3/2. So that's the perfect fifth. So that's like it's harmony. So we're restoring harmony to the body as opposed to noise. So we can go all the way noise. If that noise is held in the body, it's going to be held as a restriction. It's going to be energy that's not in harmony with itself. So it's actually blocking our energy system, our energy field. Okay. And I'm really sorry because this is like 5, 7 days of class I'm trying to condense it for you, but I hope there's enough little tangents on there that you can grab pieces of
This is
this.
beautiful. Thank you so much, Joseph. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
So the harmonic spine to me is we're restoring harmony in the system, in the spine. So we look at the nerve segments coming out. So we have nerve roots coming out from the central core. So these nerve roots go out to an end organ or a gland or a muscle or bone or some tissue for a function. So if the function is off, then it's going to be a communication error or something's off in the harmony going back to the nervous system. Okay.
Got it.
So that's a huge part of the harmonic spine is the movement that we do, how to integrate the, the tissues, how to integrate the nervous system. Okay. Now we can do that through sound. We can do that with the instruments we play and the frequencies we play. We can work anywhere from noise. We can work into what I talk about as the harmonics. We can get into the harmonics of, and our spine operating perfectly, the nervous system will restore itself and um, reorganize itself all in harmony. Okay, so it really comes down to, and then on the psychological level, it's any experience that we haven't fully integrated is going to create a little ripple in the fabric. So this is where the cerebral spinal fluid system comes in. So the harmonic spine came out of the work of the the cranial sacral system, the physiology, the anatomy, and the sound work. combination of the way I see it is it's really the holistic model. It's one. Now, what I love these days too is we're getting into voice work really deeply. So we can scan the harmonic spine also includes vocal embodiment. So it includes working with low tones and high tones and scanning all the way up and down the spine to integrate each cell to each other cell. So if every one of our cells is in resonance, in harmony with every other cell in the body, we're going to be in perfect health.
Yep.
And this happens, I believe, every night when we go into deep sleep. We organize in a delta wave, in a deep brain wave, even of sub-delta waves, that now they're coming up with names for, like epsilon and different, so we've already expanded our language around brainwave philosophy, but that's not fully caught up in our anatomy books yet. Just like the quantum world isn't caught up in the anatomy books yet. So we're still developing this deep science, and the harmonics is really a accumulation of all these possibilities, and it's ever growing. My understanding of it is ever changing. I kind of understand the template, but it's like I understand the GPS a little bit, the map, but it's still the journey is where it's all going to unfold. And then we'll update the maps based on people that have done the journey.
It's
And,
experience.
and then that's how we build our science. And when enough of us agree on it, then it will be, hard science, versus subtle sciences.
Right. It's an experiential wisdom thing.
Yes.
Understood. So, can you share like a profound transformation you've witnessed in a client through your work with sound and osteopathy combined?
Well, yesterday we just finished a 7-day training here in Woodstock, New York. Um, I can share a direct experience. There was one of the people in the class. I mean, everyone is in their journey. So someone was really having a hard time with a lot of PTSD, deep trauma stuff. And whenever they'd be in a room and they'd start speaking and they'd really go into this in the deep trauma unfolding, it was overflow. It was like too much. And then the other people in the room couldn't quite handle that, and it would make people uncomfortable.
Right.
So after all the work we did for 7 days, because we're basically in a laboratory doing sound work in the morning, doing the osteopathic work in the afternoon. We were learning the cranial system at this point. And then we were doing sound events, sound baths, journeys in the evening where they were experiencing it. After 7 days of receiving this work, in the talking circle at the end, this person would show an on and on and on, and it wasn't in the field. It wasn't like disturbing people. It was actually exciting people. There was like this huge shift that I saw and that other people experienced. And I talked with a couple of the other assistant teachers, and and we all felt it and saw it, and it was a profound transformation. And I'm sure this person is really now on their way to resolving that trauma, where they could talk about it forever and share it forever, and it just goes around in a circle. So this is the cells started to come into alignment, you
That's
know. So
terrific.
that was it was beautiful, and each participant had a story that they were like, wow, this happened, and so just to have see this transformation happen, and in my own body also, I'm feeling yeah, just a deeper level. There's ahas come, there's understandings that sink in, and some of them I hold on to, and some of them I just let go deeper and be there. So that's part of it. We don't have to hold on to all the analytics. So that's a huge thing in our society, and We have this idea that more is better,
Right.
and that there's a hierarchy, and a system, and I don't believe that anymore. It's quality essence. And also the vibration, we can feel it go out of this room that we had full of these practitioners into the rest of the world. And we actually set that intention every day that this is shared experience for the world. And we would send energy around the world to different places, anyone that needed, anyone that was in suffering. We just held this space of compassion and this trust field that we are all one. And that message, that vibration got to this person and on some level. So personally, if I've seen it in my family, I've seen any of the work I do affects my father, affects my son directly, and then affects the rest of, the family tree. And then, but eventually the whole is our family tree. There's nobody that's not in your family tree.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but we can see it when it's really close to home, even easier. So that's just become self-evident over the last 35 years, 40 years even.
That is amazing. Yes. And you've taught all over the world. Have you noticed differences in how cultures receive and integrate this vibrational healing?
I mean, yes and no. At,
Okay.
at some level, it's really all the same. We're going beyond cultures, but in a cultural context, definitely there's different cultures that bring in, it's almost like archetypes. They bring in the archetype of their culture. So you really want to start to, when I'm in the different places, I have to feel that where we're at, and then understand also the place that we're all the same, but then we work into the context of the culture for sure. Yeah, and then there's some cultures that, like was in Turkey a lot recently, and they're going through this really social oppression kind of thing, and you know, so just to see them free themselves a little bit of it, that's incredible. And in the U.S. we got our own flavor of what's going on. So it's interesting because I'm out of the U.S. now for most of the year, and then I'll come back for 2 or 3 months. And each time, because of being out and coming back, I get to see like different things. It becomes more obvious to me what's going on here. And then I'm here for a few months, and then I get used to it, and
Right.
I adapt to it, and then it's like, okay, it's just something we surf. So it's like being on different waves, cultural waves. And if you're on a new wave, you have to learn to surf that wave a little differently,
That makes sense. Yeah.
but ultimately it's the same ocean. So yeah.
True. So, do you see vibrational and energetic medicine becoming more widely integrated into mainstream healthcare in the coming decades?
Well, it already is.
Okay.
Yeah, it already is. And yeah, it's only going to continue. You know, the only obstacles are the allopathic remedies, and the people who want to just keep treating symptoms and monetize off of it. But I think the best medicine is a combination to work with the symptoms. We're at an amazing time. This thing about complementary or alternative medicine, that it's really false. There is no alternative what's the alternative? The medicine it just is about where is the proper means? Where do you want to apply, proper technique? And sometimes we want to have a surgery. We want, like, the surgeries are going so incredibly, it's great. We don't want to stop the progress there with allopathic medicine and surgeries, but we also don't want to stop the process of homeopathic and people being able to self-heal, self-remedies. I see the voice as a very powerful homeopathic agent to deal with, self-healing. Um, You won't monetize off the voice because everyone has their own voice and everyone can figure out how to use their own voice. So there's not going to be a lot of trickle down profit involved in it. So, it's economic also, but there is only one medicine, and the least amount to get the change to bring the person back to homeostasis and wholeness, the least amount is going to be the best. And sometimes that's a heavy surgical intervention or pharmacology, and sometimes it's plant medicine, and sometimes it's homeopathic remedies and Bach flower remedies, and sometimes gentle touch, listening touch. Sometimes the person creates their own remedy themselves.
Yeah, that's true. Like the least possible is the best medicine.
Yeah,
Because it's
because you'll
not
have the least side effects. It
right.
won't leave residual traumas. That's really the reason. Um, we want the cleanest medicine possible. That's I guess that's another way of saying it.
And what is one simple sound-based practice or awareness exercise that you can share to support our own healing?
Hmm. This toning thing? Hmm. We can just spend 7 minutes a day, 5 minutes a day, 20 minutes a day, or for someone who's more really wants to experience, go and do 45, 60 minutes of toning, humming, and it becomes self-evident. So you just begin to tone, and you hold that tone, whatever it is, and let the mind think whatever it wants to think. If it judges the voice, if it doesn't judge the voice, if it thinks it's great or it thinks it sucks, whatever, it doesn't, it's all okay. Let the mind go through its process and just keep doing it, and then see how the body feels after. It's a beautiful way to take us into a meditative resonance, full body resonance experience. And all the cells start to connect. And it's not about sending our voice outward, it's actually about sending inward. And if we bring the lips together, we can make it stronger. If we make our volume louder, we can make it stronger. But sometimes it's the subtle that does more than the strong. We can, and we can stop every once in a while and listen to the field, and then go back into the tone. Okay. So it's really a key practice that I love is the toning.
That's beautiful, Joseph. And that's similar to Om chanting, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then that would be the next step besides. So the toning is very neutral. There's
Right.
nothing,
Right.
and then the thing with the Om is incredible, but sometimes it's like, oh, that's a religious thing or something. So we really want to stay out of any of
Of
we want to go
intensity.
pre-religion before to the core of every religion, which was the unity, which was the one, which was connection to some source or some Godhead, right? But we can do Om. So, oh, but at the end, you still get the.
Right.
And to bring this into the physiology a little bit, this is how I share this work is now if we get that and we vibrate the maxilla, the upper palate, the pituitary gland is right above there. So now we're changing, and above the pituitary is the hypothalamus. So now we're starting to change that hypothalamic pituitary. We're working with our inner alchemist, I like to say. So we're working with our chemistry. So the toning has a physiological reason why that it's shifting the neurochemistry. It's creating more neuroplasticity in the nervous system, which is about the nervous system being able to change and not running always the same
Pattern.
program.
Cycles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now we have the physiology and the toning and the Om. And then what I like about the vowels, at some point from the tone or for the humming, if you start to open the mouth and oh, the O goes out everywhere. So
Right.
now you're starting to share it with the whole space around you.
Got it.
Yeah.
But if
Good.
you break up the om like AUM as you're toning, you're doing the ahs at the base of the spine, you at the, and then ma at the top, right? So you're kind of toning the
I
entire spine.
Yeah. So this is also the harmonic spine includes this work, also the toning and the bass, the o I e. So there's many ways I teach it, and almost every class, if not every class, we get into the toning work, and it's infinite possibilities in the toning work.
Yeah.
You can work with the physiology of the perennial floor. You can work with the physiology of the diaphragms, thoracic diaphragm, the lungs. So it really takes us deep into the body physiology.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing, toning. I love it. So, has your personal spiritual journey evolving over the decades of work, what has sound taught you about life and consciousness itself?
Hmm. Well, I think it's a way to follow our hearts. I really feel like we are music. We are sound already. And when you say sound, I like to I substitute the word silence because silence is actually a sound also. Because we think a sound is between the 20 and 20,000 hertz we can hear,
Right,
but it's the sub sounds and the ultrasounds.
right.
It's
That we
the
can.
look. Yeah. So sound silence could be the word. And so it's taught me more to trust the process and trust the stillness and allow the unfolding to happen. That's really been my journey is to, it's not about what we do, it's about what we love, really, is one thing. So, but it's also the universe wants to unfold this red carpet for each one of us. And it's doing that in the best possible way. And usually what happens is we find ways to get in its way. And and I think it's just helped me to get out of the way, trust the process, you know, but also to stay engaged. It doesn't mean just don't do anything.
Right,
But there's this idea I love. It's human beings. We're human beings, you know, versus human doing. So we want to be in the world. We want to be present. We want to share our gift, and so I like to talk about equanimity and this idea that each individual has a gift that's unique to only that individual. And so we're in a competitive world, which, I really am, in the rest of my life, I'm working to see if we can unfold that a little bit, because if we if we honor each gift, we get the totality and we all can support each other. And I said this to the class the other day is it's totally possible now in 2025 to create only win-win situations. So if we have a situation where there's someone winning and someone losing, that's not feeding the human potential. It's not feeding the world. And so to create win-wins, but we have to recognize that each person has this unique gift that we actually want to support. So by supporting each other, we need creative tensions. So that's what the gift of all of the competitive thing is. It gives us the creative tension, but I think we went a little bit polarized on one side. So we want to bring that back. And the other side would be the victims, right? We don't need victims. We need empowered people, because that's when they're going to share their gift and they're going to flourish. That's really what I see unfold in the workshops that I teach. And it's we had one in France recently, and I just remember our intention was to bring heaven down to earth, which I feel like that's a universal purpose for humanity, is to bring heaven to earth. And we actually all saw that happening and felt that happening, at the end of the workshop. And for me, I never felt it like that before. It was just like, wow, this is why I do this. This is why I would spend my time, you know, doing this. So what time I have left, I'll keep doing it, and now finding my own balance between too much doing and having to, be. So
It's beautiful. Thank you, Joseph. Yeah. So, if you could distill your life's work into a single teaching or vibration, what would that note be for the humanity right now?
it wouldn't have any words. So it would really be this deep feeling sense that everything's perfect amidst of all the chaos and everything that's happened, amidst of all the past traumas and dramas and viruses, bacteria, pathologies. In the midst of all that, there's this perfection that's happening.
It's just the authentic stillness.
The authentic stillness. Yeah, thank you.
It's
Good
beautiful.
words.
Um, yeah, that's beautiful. And can you also talk about one tone and the sonorium, please?
Yeah. So what, as this unfolding has happened in my life, during the lockdown time, um, we I formed a company with four other people. There's five of us, and our intention is um, to flourish sonic alchemy and sonic activism in the world. So we're walking our walk and living our talk, basically. So, one tone sonic alchemy is that formation, and there's five of us now, and we're all 20% ownership, and we actually set a maximum wage, and when the company makes more than that, we're going to just use that to keep building this field, this sonic field, and help other people to grow this. And one way we're marketing and getting into the marketing world is we have this sonorium that was created by Aurelio Hammer, one of my really close friends in Oroville, India, and it's a sound healing room. It's a turnkey room with a sound bed with strings, and it has all these instruments that create a sonic field that helps the body to come into its natural healing resources. It has that at the core, and it also has unlimited creativity and potential. And so we are distributing these rooms and giving the teachings. Even as important as the room is, how to work with the room, how to understand how to work with the instruments, how to work with clients. So very important is the methodology, but also this room is very user friendly. So it can bring somebody into a really deep process just by even beginners can really, after doing 50 sessions, 100 sessions, you can really become an expert in the room. So that's what One Tone Sonic Alchemy is, bringing these into the U.S. But they're around the world now also, and we're developing it in Oroville with our teaching protocols. We had 2 United States sonorium trainings so far in Rochester, New York. There's a full one there. And this is just a grassroots start. So if someone wants to get involved in it, this is a really good time to get involved and create one of these sonoriums, sound healing rooms in your area. And I see it as the potential for several practitioners to practice out of it. We have a group, and you can see our group, thesonorium.com. If you go there, you can see the different practitioners. We've got another osteopath there because, like I said, I'm not there only for a few months. We have a PT of 35 years working with autistic children, amazing yoga practitioners and even lay people. One of the guys that works at Sonorium, his next life is a sound practitioner. He's already working on it. He's already super skilled, but he's like in the banking industry, high level executive banker, but already making, his next, retirement into become sound healer. So, but we're looking for authentic, sincere people who want to do this work, who want to really help humanity. And these rooms are an incredible way to get into this field. Yeah, I can share more. You can contact me directly. I can share more. Or go to onetone.one and you can see the website, and thesonorium.com will give you the what we're doing in Rochester. And the hope is that would be a website that, okay, find a sonorium in your area, and then here's one in Detroit, here's one in Arizona, here's one in California, and we could have a common field where we all build um, our common practices.
Yep, that's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing all of that, Joseph. And it's
You're welcome.
a pleasure to have you on my podcast. And thank you so much for sharing all the wisdom.
My pleasure, Lakshmi, and thank you so much. And I hope it helps people, and you get a little bit out of it and grow.
Thank you.
Namaste.
Thanks for tuning in. Take a deep breath, carry the peace with you, and I will see you next time.